Hello and welcome to Nine Inch Charge. I'm Dan, joined as always by Tom.
How's it going?
How you doing, Tom? Last I heard, you had come down with Nurgle's rot.
Man, I've been suffering with the plague real bad. Real
Well, I'm
bad
pleased you've managed
today.
to summon yourself up from bed to come and chat Old World today.
It was tough, but the powers of Sigmar brought me back from the death.
So, after a year away, we are back with a pledge and a promise and a pint. A new episode every single Wednesday. And what better way to return than to check out all these brand new reveals? We got Cathay, Wood Elves, and Beastmen to look at. That is Tom, dragons, dryads, and things that go bar in the night. So, I have got my tankard at the ready. It's Old World Wednesdays. Tom, they've done it. The army that they promised us many, many moons ago was definitely coming and then was not coming is here. We've got Cathay. And the first thing that struck me is that Cathay is all about balance. It's about yin and yang and harmony, except for, it turns out, when it comes to the tabletop, where it is all about dragons and cannons and no balance and longer riders and all kinds of insanity.
I think it's all about just how fantastic a job they've done with these models, Dan. There is perfect balance because you're allowed to be a bit broken if you've got great models.
Don't they?
They look incredible.
They look that good that I've heard comment that they don't fit the aesthetic of the old world.
I don't agree. I think they look perfect on that tabletop. On that picture of the battalion box, they look magnificent. Not a thing I'd change.
Good box. I think that's something actually. When we come to talk about the other factions as well, all these battalion boxes are brilliant. But yeah, I really like the Cathay battalion box. So why don't you talk us through that, Tom?
It's a real strong box. So we're starting off with 50 plastic miniatures. That's 30 Jade Warriors, which are their core troops, armed with swords, shields, halberds. Come with the components to either be built as 2 units of 15 or 3 units of 10, which I think is going to be fantastic. And then you get 10 of the lovely Jade Lancers. They're cavalry models, which are just so incredible. Lovely dynamic models. And the way they're painted on this is amazing. And then 2 honking Gert artillery pieces.
I think those Jade Lancers are the envy of every Empire player.
Yeah, that's true. They've done Knights properly there, I think.
It's cool to see ogres in the artillery piece kit, carrying gunpowder kegs and things like that. Ogres are creeping back into the old world. They're not a faction, but we get little glimmers of them here and there.
Yeah, true. In the Warhammer Total War, they have a big thing going on with the Silk Road, so they buy loads of mercenaries in, and ogres are one of them. So that's probably why.
I think for me, the standout from the reveal was the Sky Lantern.
Ooh, okay. What's pulling you towards that Sky Lantern, Dan?
Do you know what? There's lots of things about it. I like the height that it will have on the tabletop, so it will really stand out and add. We've spoken before quite a lot in the past about, sometimes your armies can look very static and they can look all kind of one level. And it's nice to have your infantry and it's nice to have your monsters and have things at different heights. And having a flyer is really cool. I think it's just beautifully done. And I tell you what, the models inside it are really stand out for me. There's like a guy who's just like laughing his head off. There's someone who's throwing bombs over the side. It's just brilliant as far as I'm concerned. When I saw it,
old world character we speak about so much, isn't it? They look almost like a bunch of goblins in a wagon, just having a good old time, and that's why I'm loving that so much.
The thing that I wonder about the Sky Lantern is in Total War, there's 2 versions. There's a variant called the Sky Junk, and I wonder if we'll see that, but I don't know. Part of me thinks if we were going to see it, we would have seen it because it would have been part of the same kit. And Games Workshop sometimes miss an opportunity to do a dual kit when they could. I think another one I was talking about with Tom, my cousin, because he collects Seraphon or Lizard Men. When they did the new, what are they called? The Lizard Core Troops. The Saurus Warriors. They didn't do a dual kit with the Temple Guard, and you have to get the old Temple Guard, but they could have made that into just an upgrade.
I think that's interesting. But Temple Guard are always bigger than Saurus Warriors, so I think that would have looked weird. But my standout model for this release, Dan, is the Cathay Sentinel. Oh, what a joy that monster is. That's an absolute thing of beauty.
The paint schemes that they've done there, they really look like you can contrast and dry brush that and it'll look fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, you absolutely could. I mean, or if you've got access to an airbrush, that's a monster in an afternoon. Easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's brilliant. I think with a lot of these, they've managed to carry motion is quite a thing. You can feel that it's sort of treading towards you in the poses, which is really cool. And then, of course, there's Yao Ming, the Storm Dragon. And if you want to talk about motion, the way that she is in both aspects, poised on those rocks, is something else. And her hair and the cloak, it's just another level. I suppose it's a level that we have seen from Games Workshop, but it's not a level that we've seen in fantasy before, I don't think.
No, not in the old world for sure. It's definitely one of the best fans. Oh, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that out loud because I'll see another model from the Bretonian range that I love just as much. But you're right. That dragon's just flawless. It's really nice. They've done a wingless dragon as well, which I find like quite brave, trying to appeal to that Asian market a bit.
Yeah, well, I think it's brilliant. I think you can't. Is it a worm? Is that what a wingless dragon is? Someone in the comments will know what a wingless dragon is called. I'm going to go with worm for now. But they're fantastic. She's just great. All of it is brilliant. And then I'm hoping as well that this is just the first wave because we haven't seen any shooting yet. And they do have crossbows and they've got sort of like the human equivalent of Jezzails, haven't they, as well? And these like short range firework guys, like big sort of hand cannons and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, they do have all kinds of stuff. If you look at the Total War roster, and a lot of it is amazing, like giant jades statues as well. I can't think about
the lions.
Yeah, the lions, the jade lion, and so they will look great if they come out.
I wonder if we'll see, because we've got a Lord on a Great Spirit Longma, and I wonder if we'll see Longma Riders as a rival to Pegasus Knights.
Let's not ruin the joy that is the Pegasus Knight just yet, Dan.
But yeah, blown away by it, and I think the thing about it is it's a really important release for the game, I think, because although we have had the odd new model, not for Wood Elves, but although we have had the odd new model and the odd new unit, we haven't had a whole new army yet, and it's just great to see Games Workshop investing in this game that much.
It is, especially a full new plastic line. And I think something is worth noting that all of the new stuff that's coming out, I still think is really in keeping with what's there originally for the army. So that new Beastman wizard is fantastic. All of the new Bretonian stuff looks great and fits perfectly within the units. And I think once you get this Cathay army on the table painted, it'll look like it's just belonged there for years.
Yeah, I completely agree, Tom. I absolutely love it, and looking forward to seeing what could come next. And hopefully, this means that they have also done Kislev.
The other army that was promised many moons ago.
Now, I don't know anything about whether or not they've done Kislev. I did hear quite a while ago, about the time that High Elves were being teased. Somebody, I heard through the grapevine that the Cathay stuff was finished and in boxes and ready to be sold. I haven't heard that about Kislev. I'm completely in the dark about Kislev as to what stage it's at, where it's ready. Obviously, we know the design stage is finished. You would like to think that they would, they want to bring it out eventually, but they probably would want to space it out a bit, because this is a big new release that a lot of people are going to be interested in. And I think if they do 2 back to back, I don't know what the sales model looks like and things like that.
I would like to see Kislev come out in a second edition of like a Storm of Chaos.
Oh yeah,
maybe launch into that kind of campaign, or launch into a big series of campaigns. I think that would be brilliant.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I think it's good for the game. It's just really good of Games Workshop to do this, because you've got to remember that printing a Grand Cathay army is not printing a Space Marine, which is just free money.
That is a very valid point, isn't it? It's a very
if I was running that business, I would just be printing Space Marines. So I'm really thankful that I am not running that business, and that they are investing in a game that, as far as we know, is selling fine, but we know it's not selling the same as Space Marines.
No, but then what does, right? My biggest surprise is that we've seen an entirely new army in plastic. Like I think every time we've spoken about the idea of Kislev and Cathay coming out, it's always been toying around the idea of you might see 1 or 2 plastic kits. Everything else will be resin, but there's an awful lot of plastic I can see on this screen.
Yeah, fantastic. And I hope that what we are looking at, I'm pretty sure that what we're looking at, and I hope that what we're looking at is a lot of transfer work, because otherwise that freehand is it's out of my league, that's for sure.
Oh, they'll do transfers. They always do.
Everyone's getting transfers now. It's brilliant.
The transfer game's good.
So, Tom, before we move on and start talking about the real release everybody is excited about, the Wood Elves, any last impressions or takes that you want to say about the Cathay release?
Apart from you talking nonsense about the Wood Elves. No, I don't think so. I think we covered everything. Like, I'd like to see the rules and get into that bit, but I'm just going to enjoy the new models for what they are at the minute.
Okay, well, just before we head into the next section, I believe we have a word from one of our sponsors.
Today's episode of Old World Wednesdays is proudly brought to you by Bugman's Brewery, the finest ale this side of Karazakarak, now with 20% fewer goblin bits. That's right, after thorough cleansing of the vats and a few quiet conversations with the ingredient scouts, Bugman's special blend is smoother, bolder, and less crunchy. Find it at all good taverns and a few questionable ones. Bugman's Brewery, because even grudges go down easier with a proper pint. Aye, that hit the spot.
And now it's time to talk about the release, the most important release in the history so far, the brief history of Warhammer the Old World, the Wood Elves. And although they're not getting any new models, which does gripe me a little bit, my favourite model ever made by Games Workshop is back, and it is Araloth, and he's getting full rules and his own faction. So that is a bit of a win as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I don't want to sound horrible, Dan, but you're getting up on this high horse about no new models. You ate well at the end of 8th edition. You Wood Elf players, you ate very, very
right
well.
at the very end of 8th edition, the last book before they destroyed the world.
Well, yeah, they destroyed it because the Wood Elves were too powerful. You had too much going on, like your arcane bodkins, and Araloth was a bit of a beast. Too much.
Well,
I don't want you guys to do it again.
Well, they are toned down this edition, although you say that. I'm hoping that Orion is going to be something else. That's my hope.
That would be nice.
Really great to see him come back. There's lots of returning models that I'm really excited about, actually. Some more than others. They're going to bring back, they said in the article, the 1987 Jez Goodwin Beastmasters with their beasts.
I've never seen those models.
Well, you know how earlier I said Cathay are that good, they don't fit the fantasy aesthetic. I think the Beastmasters will be a good example of that. They're very of their time.
So bad that they don't fit.
But they're classic and they're cool. And I hope that they have some kind of cool way that they play on the table. They should be, if they're sort of beastie, they might be part of the Wild Hunt kind of themed army, because there's 2 themed armies we're getting. And actually, I was wrong in my prediction. I thought we'd get a Wild Hunt, and I thought we would get a Forest Spirits army, but it looks like we're not going to get an all Forest Spirits army in the Armies of Infamy. We're going to get an Araloth army, which is going to be based around Eternal Guard, which is interesting. The other thing about this release is that there's lots of pictures up of lots of different units, and we've got the old Tree Man returning, because obviously the new one, although it was a fantasy kit, is now kind of core Age of Sigmar. We will have the old Treekin returning, but there is not one picture that I can find anywhere of a Dryad, which is really weird because they're a core part of the game. I'm clicking through now, all the returning plastics, no Dryads. So I really, really hope that Games Workshop do not bring back the old metal Dryads. I'm just don't release them. Don't release anything. Just say we don't make models for Dryads, except there are some in Age of Sigmar. You'd be better off.
But would you not just buy the plastic Dryads from Age of Sigmar? Would you add
I think
also in the Kernoff Hunters also?
Do you know what? We laugh about the Treekin quite a lot, but the Treekin are different to Kernoff Hunters. Treekin are like dead bits of wood and twig and log and stuff from kind of all over the forest, just cobbled together, which is why they look like a bit of a mess, but they do actually represent what they are in the lore. Whereas the Dryads, they're just not great. But I've been checking. It was Henry who told me, and I've gone through the Forces of Fantasy. I've gone through that article, so goodness knows what is going on.
And there's nothing in the core rulebook at all when you look at the factions. There we go. You're going to get the book out.
Bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves.
So I'm going to talk while you're looking at that. I really like the core Wood Elf range. I think it's phenomenal. And again, we spoke about it, but that army box that's coming out, it's a really good buy from my perspective. As someone who doesn't play Wood Elves, I've played enough against them, but to get that many Glade Guard, to get your cavalry, which you want your Wild Riders. I don't know how good the other ones are. The Bambies.
Sorry, just to interrupt you. None. No Dryads of any description.
Oh no. The Bambis were good, but they got nerfed a bit in the last. I want to say patch, but that's more video gamey. In the last FAQ, did they not? Because they didn't get to pick their spell; they had to roll for it, so you couldn't take like 6 fireballs. But boohoo! I mean, you there. That was pretty good. And my goodness, the Eternal Guard and those Wildwood Rangers are just brilliant kits. I've seen them on the table through many iterations with Dan, and they always bring a smile to my face. So
yeah, I agree. The core box is brilliant. It's everything that you would want in a core box. I think there's a good selection there, and a couple of dual kits as well, because everything is dual purpose actually. Because the Glade Guard can be scouts as well, so that's really good.
I think it's something they've done really well, if I may butt in. So back when I was getting into 8th, Games Workshop always used to do a battalion box challenge. And then because Fantasy wasn't doing that great, they're trying to push battalion boxes. So they go, right, we'll do a battalion box challenge for like a month. You'll buy a battalion box. You have to build a hero, etc., units, and play games with it in the store. And I think that's something you can really do well with this battalion box or army box. You can build a hero out of one of these models with a bit of converting and just go and play games with it. And I think you'd do just about all right and have some good fun. So I love that.
Yeah, I agree. I've kit bashed loads of stuff out of these boxes. They do go really well together. What's your take on the dragon, Tom? So it's the 5th edition dragon, which is pretty much the same as the dragon that we had, but it doesn't have the spikes crawling over it, and it is missing 2 magical sisters riding it as well.
I mean, that can only be a great thing, because those Sisters of Twilights were horrible to play against. But I don't know. What's the dragon you've got, Dan, at the minute? The metal dragon you've got?
So I have the updated dragon that has the Sisters of Twilight on, but I have a 5th edition Glade Lord that rides it.
Yeah.
So I've kind of got the best of both worlds.
It's one of those things, mate, where I think if we were going to give the Wood Elves a new model, it should have been a dragon. I think the 5th edition dragon's a bit... I love it. It looks wacky. I kind of just wish they did the other updated one and gave you the Sisters of Twilight, gave you the sprites. Because it's just that classic metal dragon from Games Workshop from back in the day, where every elf race seemed to have the same dragon, right? They just changed the guy on top.
I think I'm going to have to get used to... Well, I've got 2 of the new tree men built, so I don't think I'm going to go back to that old one, if I'm honest. That is one, when it came out, I didn't like it, and I actually skipped it. I carried on using my old tree man until the new plastic one came out, and never went for that fine cast.
You didn't go and build one out of Lego or sticks from the garden or anything like that.
Sticks and googly eyes, no, and I was never tempted.
Yeah.
And just the last thing I want to touch on with this actually is I just want to say how excited I am that Kindreds are coming back for Wood Elf Heroes, because I think that was a bit of an oversight when they did Forces of Fantasy, because the High Elves all got Kindred, which should be cool. I'm not expecting the return of the Altar Kindred, if anybody knows what that is, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got, that you could have a Glamour Weave or an Eternal Hero if you want one.
Are you looking forward to building Metal Warhawk Riders?
I've got
You're allowed
some.
To say no.
I've got some that somebody kindly 3D printed for me from Etsy, so I won't have to. And I've used them, and they were rubbish in the game. But again, it's that aesthetic, and they are cool. And I may find myself getting some. I'm definitely going to get the Beastmen. I've got every, not the Beastmen, you know, the Beastmasters. I've got everything else, I think, in the range pretty much. So there won't be too much for me to get. But looking forward to reading the Arcane Journal. I'll probably pick up another Araloth, because you just can never have too many of those models.
Yeah, I have promised to paint you an Araloth as well, so I'm going to pick one.
Ah, yes.
And I'm going to paint you one as well. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you, mate. All right, so next, the last release, a faction that gets a new model, the Beastmen.
the Beastmen. Now
Why don't we
this,
start with that new model, because it is amazing, isn't it?
oh yeah, mate, it's fantastic. I love that new Beastmen model.
Yeah, I like the familiar as well. He's great. It's just brilliant character, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. There's not a thing I don't like about it. It's really, really lovely. It's funny because they're all in the rule book, aren't they? All of these new characters we're getting, they're all pictured in the Warhammer core rule book on the sides of the page.
All of the Empire mages and things like that are all like they're in the artwork, like in the indents of the pages and things, aren't they?
Can't believe that's been like under our nose for this long. No one only really just realised.
Yeah, well, it's cool, isn't it? Like the more gets released, the more we begin to notice and things. And I can remember actually looking at some of that artwork and thinking, God, don't they look great? And things like that. And I can remember it, even not just in this book, but in the rule book for Age of Sigmar as well, looking in the artwork and thinking, oh, this is what the people look like in the different realms and things. I love looking at that kind of artwork. And it's cool to see it brought to life, isn't it?
It's really cool. So do you wanna talk us through the old battalion box, the army box?
I'll be honest with you, Tom. I just skipped straight past Wood Elves.
Okay, okay. So battalion box I think is really cool. It's one I'll probably be picking up. I know Ross is looking to pick it up as well, but starting off with 61 lovely of your finest fantasy miniatures, 30 lowly ungors, and then you've got 30 gores, plus a towering Cygor, which I think is incredible, and two new sets of the lovely Beastmen Brayherd transfer sheets. So you get 204 transfers, which will keep you going.
Wow. Yeah, that will keep you going.
I'm really excited about this release, believe it or not. Back in the day, I found painting skin and brown completely unassailable. So I used to look at the Beastmen and think, what a range that is. There's not much in there I didn't think was fantastic, but I just didn't have the confidence to go and pick it up and paint. But now I can paint a bit, and I've got contrast and an airbrush. I know I can knock out that army to like quite a good standard that I'd be happy with. So I'm really excited for this time around.
So I was talking to Henry about this. It's a bit of shout out to Henry from Cult of Paint. I was chatting to him the other day whilst he was building some models, and I was saying to him that I'd love to see him paint some of these, because Henry's style is like, Henry can paint your Space Marine, it'll look amazing, and he'll do no edge highlighting or any of that. And there's none of that on here. I just think it will lend itself to his style really well.
Really nicely.
So I'd love to see him paint some of those. There's some really cool stuff coming back, stuff that I had forgotten about, I think, really. Like the Shamans look really cool.
I love the Forge World resins that are coming back. That corrupt stag monster, the toad dragon. Oh God.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that model, if I'm honest with you. And then seeing it again, I was like, oh my goodness, like it looks amazing.
Yeah,
the background bearer looks really cool.
Totally forgot how much resin Forge World stuff there was for fantasy back in the day.
Yeah. There's something about Beastmen that I've always liked, because they're another one of those armies, like the Wood Elves, that's like a skirmishy, ambushy army. Even if in the pictures they're all perfectly rank and file, they're a really cool army for that kind of play style, and I've always wanted to have a go at them. And nobody in our hobby group has collected them until now, we'll say. But they're like, what's great about them as well is that they're the natural enemy of the Wood Elves, which obviously I've got a lot of Wood Elves, so it would be cool to play a game, get the trees down, like make it like a big forest, and just have like recreate a battle of old.
I think it would be a really good one for one of our hobby excursions to the Hobbyland for like a weekend, and everyone commit to painting some, a bit of Beastmen, a bit of Wood Elves, and we just do a massive like campaign for for the forests.
Yeah. So there's normally 8 of us that go away, aren't there? Everybody paints. At the moment, we are all pledging to paint Empire, aren't we? So everyone's going to do kind of 1,000 points of Empire, and we'll do a Civil War.
I love how it
campaign
escalated from
weekend.
500 points to 1,250.
Well, I've gone up to 1,250 now, and I want to go up from there.
No.
So, but we are going to do an Empire Civil War is next for we're getting off the track now, but that is next on the hobby excursion.
I think it's pertinent to go off track a bit, man. We've not recorded in a year. Like, it's been a hell of a year for both of us, I've no doubt. People want to know what's going on a bit.
Yeah, we've had a lot go on personally for ourselves, big changes. But we have managed to at least have one hobby retreat away. 8 of us went away to Cornwall and booked out some holiday cottages and an old barn and just played loads of Warhammer. We did a siege, which was really cool. I painted up the old Warhammer fortress and we laid siege to it, and we recreated the diorama that's in Warhammer World, where it's Bretonnians and Tomb Kings fighting the siege on a smaller scale. Which was really fun. So yeah, we have been busy. We have been really excited about it, but unfortunately the channel had to just take a second seat to life, basically. But I think we've mostly sorted our lives out now, Tom, haven't we? I think
for the time being, there's always life, isn't there?
ready just to go back into the old world even more. But so these are the last factions being released now, aren't they? And then we've got the game.
This is it, man. This is everything they've proposed. This is everything. So, like, to see Cathay, I was such a surprise. I thought it was going to be this, the Wood Elves Beastmen. I wasn't, but believe it or not, I wasn't at all surprised or looking forward to the reveal, because I was like, well, we know what's coming. I knew Wood Elves weren't getting anything. We had seen the one model for Beastmen. But to wake up, and I didn't sleep that well, so I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and saw the Cathay reveal. And I was straight into the group chat at 2 in the morning, going absolutely mad. Yeah, I've been hyped ever since.
So why don't we just finish then by saying, what do we think is going to come next? Because we've got all the factions. We've got all the rules, all the arcane journals are out, when Cathay comes out, and then that draws a close to the year, let's say. What is next for this game?
Well, I think natural is we see Kislev and then a new edition of the old world. I think that's where it goes.
I want to say that we see Dark Elves.
Oh,
because
okay.
Something that Jeremy said to me a long time ago. We had Jeremy on the podcast when the game came out, and we talked about how he felt about Dark Elves being a legacy faction, and he just said, "I just don't believe it." He said those models don't fit the Cities of Sigmar. They just don't look right. The old dread spears stood to attention. There are some that you might be able to get away with. They led into the Corsair kind of pirate kind of nature of Dark Elves. But I think he's completely right that there are old models there, executioners, things like that. They're not Age of Sigmar models. They are old world models.
They still sell a fantastic amount of the range, and I think that's why, if I was a betting man, I'd put 2nd edition, and then a big disassociation from that. We can't do Age of Sigmar and Warhammer Fantasy in the same. So you'll see your Dark Elves, you'll see your legacy factions perhaps come back, because they're not afraid to going back to 5th edition models, 6th edition models. They're not afraid of doing it. So I think that's what we'll see. And you'll see like 2-3 years of the legacy factions being introduced into the game. So
do you think that, for example, that vampire counts are now, they're called, whatever they're called now, are that far removed from what they were, they could bring out the old vampire counts?
Yeah, absolutely. So what is in the vampire counts range at the minute? Like, there's none of the old
There's not a
stuff
lot.
there, is there?
No, there's not a lot that's original. So they could, if you're saying, go back and bring out the old,
yeah.
like they've done with Chaos.
All they have to go back and do is let's go and do what was on the range for 8th edition.
Yeah, like they did with, like the same they did with Warriors of Chaos.
Yeah, absolutely that. Like, let me just be a bit of a.
I think demons as well. I'm just really surprised that demons don't exist in Warhammer the Old World, because they exist in every game. You can't escape demons. The warp just exists, and they pop in and out of it.
Yeah.
And they're in 40k, and they're in Fantasy and Age of Sigmar, but they're not in the Old World. I think I'd like to see demons. I think.
Yeah,
and,
demons would be cool.
And then the last thing I'd like to see, as you said, Tom, is a campaign. I'd love a campaign book.
I reckon they've got a real strong possibility to do a big Storm of Chaos campaign or something like that. You've got Kislev, you've got Cathay, who defend a giant wall against Chaos. If they do Kislev, they'll have them as the bulwark for the Empire, and then you have the Empire itself, Bretonia. It will all be there. It'd be ready to go.
Yeah. So I think that pretty much takes us up to the end, doesn't it, Tom?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, thank you very much for tuning in, all those of you who have tuned in. It's great to be back. We will be back each and every Wednesday with a new episode to chat about the latest news or rumors or conspiracies or how our hobby's going. So we hope to have you along the way. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.